Welcome, Team Encore. I've got an exciting guest here, Clayton Phillips, on our podcast. Clayton is a retired superintendent, California Park System, living in San Diego, and he is embarking on an incredible journey, 50 rounds of golf in 50 states in 50 days. And we are excited to have him on the show. Clayton, welcome to the Encore Golf podcast.
Thanks, Steve. It's great to be here.
And you're calling in from San Diego, right?
I am.
So why don't we jump right into it? Can you let our listeners know how you came up with this idea for 50 rounds of golf in all 50 states in 50 days? It sounds pretty challenging, I think would be an understatement.
Yeah, it is really challenging. And maybe I don't know the half of it until I start later this month. It all started really about 5 years ago. I was on a little trip to Nepal to do some minor earthquake rehab effort with a small group from our church. And one of the guys in one of our off times was just telling us about something he had done. He had spent years being involved with a school down in Guatemala, and he is an avid basketball player. He's in his late 70s, and he is still playing league basketball. And he would teach the kids down there basketball skills. But it always frustrated him because it rained so much in Guatemala that it messed up his schedule. So he came back to the U.S. and he told us that he and three buddies decided to fix the problem by raising money for the school to build a pavilion that they could play in all weather. And they did that by shooting a basketball in a hoop in all 48 contiguous states in eight days, 4 hours, and 32 minutes, set a Guinness Book of World Record. So when he told me that story, I was intrigued on a number of counts. The first was the idea of a road trip around the United States like that. I'm into planning trips. I love road trips. I love back road things, and so that was intriguing. And so that just got me thinking about road trips. And well, his love is basketball. I have a serious unabated addiction to golf, and so I just started thinking about that. And as far as a cause, for probably about 20 years, I'd been nurturing this concern and not doing anything about it, about how many people around the world have very limited. 20 years ago with an interpretive panel in an airport where I was killing time. And this interpretive panel shocked me. It shocked me how many millions of people don't have easy access to clean water, and something that I absolutely take for granted. And then reading more about the effects of that just was stunning. And that lingered with me for about 20 years until I heard his story. And once I heard my friend's story, I kind of put all those three things together: my love for golf, my love for trips, and my concern for water together quickly. And that's what gave me, what would be a parallel for me? Well, maybe I'd do 50 days, 50 rounds. Oh, 50 and 50 and 50 sounds good. And so I started just tinkering with maps and seeing what was possible.
It's really fascinating, and it's cool that you've been able to turn your passion for golf, road tripping, to such an amazing cause. And we'll get into some of those donation partners of yours, or nonprofit partners, Water First International and Project Blue, and just the sport of golf. Our listeners are diehard golfers. It is amazing to see how charitable the community of golfers has become. One of the most significant sources of fundraising donations is the sport of golf. And, we are a boutique, golf ball manufacturer, high-tech purveyor of golf balls. And you obviously will need some golf balls on your trip. So I think maybe just talking a little bit about how you came across Encore Golf. We obviously were intrigued by your story, but for our listeners, I think it would be helpful.
Sure. I sent out letters to many companies introducing this this endeavor, because I felt like, heck, I'm going to be playing golf in every single state, and especially post-pandemic, it kind of feels like, a regathering of the nation where we've been living in isolation for so long. And I would think that some company that's tied to golf would get excited about the opportunity to partner with that. And OnCore is the one company that responded and was intrigued. And to your credit, they sent me some golf balls to try out before I committed to being an OnCore person, because I honestly had never played OnCore. So I played them, and I liked them, and liked them so much that in short order I had a career round. I mean, I have an 8, hovering between 8 to 10 index, and I promptly shot a 71.
Wow.
So I know it wasn't just OnCore, but I'm committed to it now, and I've found that it's longer than Pro V, and maybe just a little less spin than the Chrome Soft, but I'm committed to it. It's a great ball.
For the folks listening, we are not paying Clayton to say that, so this is as genuine and real as the reviews get. No, we really appreciate that. And just, I know we've been internally working on logistics with you, knowing that you're going to pass through Buffalo on September 11th. We're going to load you up with more golf balls when you're here. But for the listeners that might be curious how, because I know I certainly was, how you were able to get all of the states in 50 days and all the rounds of golf. I know you're starting out in Honolulu on August 24th coming up, finishing in San Diego on October 12th, so 50 days later. But just walk us through that mapping process and how you're able to accomplish this.
Yeah, it was really fun to do. I love panhandles. Panhandles get me to quickly dip through a state, and but it was challenging because I also had to play decent golf courses. I'm not playing goat tracks. I have a commitment to try and slither and nibble at states, but still play good golf. And so I am starting in Hawaii. Day one is August 24th, as you said. And then that very evening, I take the red eye to Anchorage, Alaska, which is actually pretty painful because I'm going to be in Anchorage, in my very favorite state on the planet, for all of 8 hours. I'm going to play golf and then hop on a plane and go back down to Portland, where my car is waiting for me. And then from that point on, from Portland all the way around the United States, back to slingshotting back to San Diego, I'll be mostly 85% of the time on 2-lane roads in my little car, and so it was just a matter of looking at routes and playing a lot with Google Maps, and some days you can't go too fast because you can't play 3 rounds in one day. But when you get into places like Connecticut and Rhode Island and Massachusetts, it gets kind of tricky. And then you get into other big states like Wyoming, and you just can't get across that whole state in one day and play golf. And so there are 7 days where I'm not playing any golf, and then 7 days where I'm playing 2 rounds of golf. Like Sioux Falls and Sioux City I'm playing golf in both those cities in one day, for example.
That makes sense. And for our listeners that have access to kind of the YouTube video and the links, we will provide a map of Clayton's route because I think it's pretty cool. You've described it well, but when you see it on the map, you kind of can make sense of how you're able to do it. So we'll certainly provide that. Um, so help me understand. I know golf is a passion. Uh, why you chose it, how you got into the game, and what you feel is special about the sport.
Oh my gosh. Well, I started playing golf when I was 15, and uh, other life things, kind of took precedence for really 45 years. I still played passionately, but never very well. And it wasn't really until retirement that I started to be able to invest the time. And the funny thing is, I'm actually at age 66 playing the best golf of my life, which is pretty exciting. I'm hitting the ball farther, and sure, maybe it's the equipment, maybe it's the Encore golf balls. I don't know, but I am doing much better. I'm figuring out some things. I mean, I have stuck on the wall of my cubicle here a quote from Nick Faldo that says, "Tempo is the glue that sticks all elements of the golf swing together." And when I read that and started looking at driving ranges that I would frequent, and then looking at the pros on their driving range, it was amazing the difference between the rest of us and how fast everybody swings. And then you go see the pros and how relaxed and even tempoed they swing. And I started doing that, and it was a revelation. So golf is like as all of the listeners know, golf is like the never-ending eternal quest that is just the greatest challenge. And when you get it right, it's the thing you remember as you fall asleep at night. That one amazing shot, and you just want to try and repeat it. So I love being outdoors. By training, I'm a licensed landscape architect. And so I just love the look of a golf course. One of the things I'm excited about is seeing the diversity of golf courses that I'm going to get to play. I mean, think about it. On day one, I'm going to be in this very jungly course in the hills above Oahu. And then that very next morning, I'm going to be at the foot of Denali with conifers lining and moose running around the fairways. And then the very next day, I'm going to be in the rolling hills east of Portland. And so I'm pretty excited about those kind of experiences from a golf perspective.
And I know in your bio, you're a lover of golf, parks, road trips, family, and your background as a superintendent of the park system in California, I'd imagine really, ignited a love for nature and being outdoors. So maybe just speak briefly to that and your career.
Sure. Yeah, I got to wear the Stetson for a while as a superintendent for state parks, and it is. I got to spend 40 years doing something that I loved and felt like it was making a big difference in the lives of people, just getting them outdoors. You don't realize, I don't think I recognized just how important outdoors experiences are to people until you go to New York, where there are so many thousands of people layered on top of each other, and yet they're all outdoors. They're all in Central Park. And if it weren't for places like Central Park or Prospect Park in Brooklyn, I think people would go insane there. And certainly in the rest of the United States, the open spaces that we get to experience and golfers get to experience every day they golf are 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 like a soothing balm to the soul. There's something in us that requires that kind of outdoor experience. And I had the pleasure of providing some of that in different ways in California state parks.
100% agree. I think with technology being so pervasive, um, everything we've experienced with the health challenges over the last few years, fresh air, being out on the golf course, being in a park.
Well,
Is
and Steve, look at just the way that golf has boomed during this pandemic, and it drives me crazy because I have a harder time getting on the golf course, but I also love it because it was the one thing that people could do, and people needed. They just recognized they needed to be outdoors. So if golf is it, that's what I'm going to do, and so that's really been exciting for the golf industry and golfers everywhere, that people are recognizing the value of that golf provides in getting them out in the world.
Yeah, and what I thought was cool too was that you were essentially personally funding your travel expenses and your golf. And you recognized as um, as great as that would be to have someone else cover those costs, you wanted to do it your own, and you wanted all the money that you were raising to go to two particular charities involved in providing clean water access in the developing world. So I thought that was really, really neat and reassuring as a donor, and certainly to our listeners that their support for you isn't just going for you to have a great time and play golf, as cool as that is, but there's a bigger purpose here. So talk to us about the challenges around clean water access and or why that's important to you.
Sure. And thanks for bringing that up about all the money going directly to one of these two charities. That is really important because there are so many elements of this trip that I'm excited about, and it's going to be fun, that I felt it would be it's already a little self-indulgent, this adventure. And the idea of actually asking people to pay for this self-indulgent thing just felt so wrong. So yeah, I've saved up money so that I could do this trip, so that every dime goes to support the charity, one of the two charities, whatever they choose. And yeah, the whole clean water thing kind of distills down to two sound bites for me. One is, every year, over 2 million people die from dirty water, directly because of dirty water. And of those 2 million people, 40% of those are kids under the age of 5. When I hear that stat, I have real trouble getting my head around that. I mean, that's huge, and it's a fixable issue. It's a fixable problem. I'm not suggesting that clean water is the most important cause. There's a whole tree of important causes that are out there, and but what makes this easy access to clean water so important for me is that it's the one that is pretty easily fixed. It's just money to access water, whether it's digging wells or capturing springs or just treating the water. It's just doing those things, and so that's part one. The second soundbite is that in the act of getting water, in Africa alone, over 1 billion hours, that's 1 billion hours in person time, are spent just going to get water. Imagine the educational improvements, the economic improvements that would happen if those people didn't have to spend all those hours trudging an average of 6 kilometers to get their water, and it's typically not very clean water. Kids would be going to school. Women would be helping on the farms or working in industry, and entire economies would change such that these less affluent countries would not be reliant on handouts from the more affluent countries, and we're helping them to become more sustainable. And speaking of sustainable, one of the things that I'm especially excited about with these particular charities is that they work really hard to make sure that whatever improvements are made are long-term improvements. And they accomplish that by making sure that whoever is a recipient, whether it's an individual or a community, they have to be involved with the installation of a water project and the long-term sustainability. And I had the opportunity to see that in Western Honduras. I knew after I had this idea of the 50-state golf thing, I knew that it probably wouldn't be good if I was just this armchair supporter. And so I was able to tag along for a short week down to Western Honduras. And it was so otherworldly down there for this innocent, naive American. I mean, it was scary and exciting. But what was really thrilling is seeing the people who had been recipients of the water and what they do. I mean, these are very, very poor farmers that all are members of the water boards to make sure that their water source is sustainable for many future generations. And I had so many experiences down there where, well, for example, I was standing there. We were visiting this one recipient, and I asked her through the translator, could you ask Porfiria maybe the top 3 benefits that having this water in this one concrete sink has had? What are the 3 top benefits to her in her life to having this, as opposed to going way down there to that muddy river that I can barely see each day to get her water? And so the translator, asked the question, and we almost fell backwards as she started waving her arms and speaking machine gun Spanish for 5 minutes. And when she finally caught her breath, I turned to him and I said, I think that was a lot more than 3. And indeed, it was just delightful. I didn't even need to understand all of the reasons, but it changed everything. When you have easy access to clean water, that changes everything. It connects people. Women that had never worked together before down there were now developing community banks and co-ops, and it's all because they started working together on assuring easy access to clean water. So all the collateral effects are really truly amazing, and the lives that are changed. We had another family that we thought they were just serving us tea and cakes while we met one last time with the director of the organization that facilitates things down there. And when he got up to leave, we started to get up to leave, and this couple demanded that we sit back down. And so we obeyed and we sat down, and they proceeded to thank us and tell us all the things. They were one of the early recipients of this water, clean water. And they told us over the last 15 years how that changed the lives of their family. And it almost felt like a little bit like It's a Wonderful Life. And Jimmy Stewart was telling us, they knew what their life would have looked like, and now they understood what it does look like because of the clean water. Their children are prospering. So everything. I mean, all of that is just really exciting.
Yeah, I think we can agree that growing up in the United States, we take a lot of things for granted, and being able to turn a faucet on and have clean water pretty much everywhere we go. And with caveats, there has been certainly some pretty severe water issues in the States, but for the most part, we go about our days and got plenty of water to drink, bathe with, eat, cook with, and it's not something you really think about, as you mentioned earlier, that you just kind of take it for granted. So amazing work what you're doing, and I think our listeners will be moved by that, and certainly open to exploring the particular charities that you've outlined on your site, which we will get to in the closing. But before that, kind of cool that you're going to be in Buffalo, and it just happens to be on September 11th. So we're going to host Clayton at Glen Oak Golf Course with the head of the Western New York PGA, Steve Barkowski, who's graciously opened up his golf course to some folks from the OnCore Golf team and Clayton. And we're also going to have Nick Martone, an OnCore ambassador and Marine veteran, involved, and potentially a few others to commemorate September 11th, and of course your arrival. So just a coincidence that Buffalo was planned on September 11th, right?
Oh yeah, just a coincidence.
We're excited to have you. Just in closing, how for those listening that are moved by this epic journey of yours and want to support, lend a hand, what's the best way for them to help out, and where should they go to do so?
Yeah, the easiest way is to just go to my website, and you can just Google just this phrase. It's 50, the numbers 50 in 50 in 50 golf, the number 4 water. So 50 and 50 and 50 golf for water, and you'll find my website, and there's more information in there than you could possibly want to know. But there is a tab that's a donate tab, and in that tab you can choose between 2 charities. One is a Christian charity, the other is secular. Both are amazing and very reliable, trustworthy. I worked hard to choose those 2 charities, and there's information about each one, and you can choose which one to donate to. You can also make it a little bit more crazy and fun by choosing to pledge a to be determined amount based on my performance. That will motivate me to get up in the morning and lift a golf club one more time. You can pledge a certain amount based on the number of birdies, eagles. I've got some people pledging an amount based on the number of rounds I don't swear in. Although I have gotten a special dispensation that crap is okay, because that typically honors Thomas Crapper, who is a historical figure, and so that's my word that is allowed. But I'll tell you, it just doesn't seem to work for some shots. And then I've got some people that are donating based on the number of states I don't get a speeding ticket in. And all that menu is in the website, so you can pick and choose. So yeah, 50 and 50 and 50 golf for water, and it's .org.
We'll certainly link the website. Anyone that has any questions on how to get a hold of Clayton, feel free to reach out to the OnCore Golf team, and we will connect the dots. But this has been amazing. Thanks for coming on our podcast, and we certainly hope the listeners will be moved by your story and want to help out as well. So thanks for joining us, Clayton.
Thanks so much for having me, Steve.
We'll see you in Buffalo.
Okay, looking forward to it.
All right, cheers.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.